The House has triggered Donald Trump's second impeachment trial in the Senate, and the Republicans quickly moved in to nix the trial as they voted on an objection raised by Senator Genius Rand Paul, who believes that there is no constitutional basis for the impeachment of Donald Trump. According to this genius, impeachment is for removal from office, and the accused here has already left office, and the trial will drag our great country down into the gutter of rancor and vitriol, the likes of which has never been seen in our nation's history. Nicely said, Mr. Genius. What happened on January 6th is exactly what dragged our great country down to the gutter of rancor and vitriol, the likes of which we have never seen in our nation's history. So this genius is hoping that we all have already forgotten what happened on January 6th. And his own former majority leader said that the mob was fed lies by Donald Trump and Trump provoked them. Does this genius from Kentucky know that "I thought Trump asked me to do these things" is the defense that is being used by rioters who are facing charges? So which one is true, Mr. Paul? Did Trump incite the mob or not? Well, you don't want to answer that, do you? You want us to instead focus on the validity of the impeachment trial. Votes matter, everyone, votes matter. Had the Republicans controlled the Senate and the majority leader's position was still in their control, the Republicans would have never allowed this impeachment process to even go ahead. The rioters who were provoked by Trump would have faced all kinds of charges. Some may even end up behind the bars for a very, very long time. More than 400 people have been identified as potential suspects, and it has been reported that the authorities are going to bring sedition charges against some of them. Now, we don't know how many are going to be charged, but whoever it is, sedition is a big, big word. And if found guilty, which looks extremely likely for a lot of them, the outcome is not going to be pretty for these people. Conspiring to overthrow or oppose federal authority by force, which is exactly what is happening here. And this is just a small clip. The FBI is in possession of hours and hours of footage like this. So if you use force to oppose federal authorities, it's a crime and it is punishable by up to 20 years in prison. So all these people who marched on the Capitol after being fed lies and provoked by the president will be charged, and they will languish behind the bars while the man who provoked them must be left alone. Even discussing in the Senate whether or not he committed those crimes is a strict no. It is so bad for the country. Where was Mr. Paul when Giuliani called for trial by combat? What did Mr. Paul do after Trump's speech that became the trigger event for the insurrection? Where was his care for the country? It was absent then, but it suddenly reappeared after the Democrats moved on impeachment. How rich! But the Republican effort to stop the impeachment trial from moving forward failed, as 5 Republican senators voted along with the Democrats. So the objection failed, with 55 senators supporting the trial and 45 senators opposing it. As usual, the media has started to miss the mountain for the molehill. The objection to the Senate vote has occupied the headlines across all major news outlets, and all of them have one thing in common. Since 45 senators voted to nix the impeachment trial, that means Trump will be acquitted and the Republicans have already won. This is like saying Tom Brady and Tampa Bay will win the Super Bowl against the Chiefs because Brady has won the Super Bowl so many times and Mahomes has won it only once. It could happen, but it is not going to happen because of the reason you guys have suggested. So why is the media going horribly wrong here? Number one, the trial is worse than the outcome for the Republicans. How the senators vote, how the Republican senators vote after the impeachment trial is more influential than whether or not Trump is convicted or acquitted. In the world of law and order and fairness, it would only be fair for the instigator to be punished as much as or more than the one who carried out the crime. But let us not be naive here and think that the rule of law always hits the powerful and the vulnerable equally hard. It would love to, but there are systems in place that affect equitable retribution for crimes. The Senate is not the only place where justice can be served to anyone who incited the mob. Trump is not the president anymore. He is a private citizen. The Department of Justice, the FBI, and state attorney generals will have plenty of access to the rule book. Impeaching Trump could force him out of holding public office in the future. and it can block him from running for president again. But even that rule is on an uncharted territory. No one has definitive clarity on that, and Trump could certainly move against it to the court and try to reverse it. So it may stop him or it may not stop him from contesting again. But as the current 2020 presidential election has shown, Trump is actually a great candidate for Democrats to run against in 24. In fact, he's the best candidate for them to face off. He won the 2016 Electoral College with what, like 77,000 votes in the Midwest against a highly unfavorable candidate, and lost the presidency by a 4 to 5 point margin in 2020 after spending more than $1.3 billion against an opponent who was literally broke in April 20. If anything, the Democrats would love to not convict Trump and hope and pray that he runs again and stirs up another record-breaking turnout. With White House already in their control, the Democrats can expand voter access, strengthen USPS, and make mail-in voting a breeze and aim for 170 million to turn out to vote in 24. Simply put, Democrats will win the White House again in 24 if Trump is on the ballot. If I know this, and if you agree to the outcome of the scenario that I just laid out, then you can also understand why the Democrats are not after the outcome of the trial and why the Republicans are so nervous about it. Truth be told, this trial is not about Trump. It is about Republican senators and how they vote. It will not matter how Iowa Senator Joni Ernst or North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis votes, because they will not face the voters until 26. It will not make much of a difference for James Lankford and John Heaven, who will be running for the Senate in 22 from North Dakota and Oklahoma. But it will make a ton of difference for Republican candidates who will be running in Iowa, Florida, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina in 22. A vote to convict will certainly make sure that they lose their election. There really is no chance for them to win, as the MAGA base will turn against them in full force. A vote to acquit will allow the Democrats to chip away with moderates and independents in battleground states. And there really is no chance in hell for any of these Republican candidates to throw the January 6th riots under the carpet with educated white voters. Let's not even talk about their chances with women who have a child in their home. So a vote to acquit gives Republicans a small chance, and it is better than the result they will get by convicting. So you can see the way the Republican senators will be voting, especially if they are from the states that I had listed earlier. I really don't see a path to 17 votes unless Mitch McConnell works the phones. Now, let us look things from the Democratic side. For them, Trump is no longer their problem. It is a Republican problem. They should do everything to keep Trump inside Republican heads. They can attack the Republican senators irrespective of how they vote. Remind MAGA fans that their GOP senator voted against Trump, while reminding Democratic voters that these senators voted to let Trump go scot-free. Heck, even Rubio can be made vulnerable in Florida, irrespective of how he votes. All he has to do is vote. That will be enough. If he convicts Trump, I will suggest creating an ad targeting him for convicting Trump in deep red districts in Florida. If he acquits Trump, I will create an ad for siding with dictatorship and mobs in deep Latino districts. A well-established candidate can run it close with Rubio, and all he needs is that one vote. This vote, and not the outcome of the impeachment, is a disaster for the Republican Party in states like Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, and Nevada. Now, let us turn our attention towards the media. Let me ask you this. Paul raised an objection and it was voted upon, and the objection failed. Is that the message you got from reading these articles and watching national TV? We were all made to think. It kind of felt as if the GOP had already won because 45 senators voted to object, and because of that, we can be sure that Trump will be acquitted. Instead, they should have all screamed together that the objection had failed and stopped right there. Why keep amplifying the question of Rand Paul whether or not it is unconstitutional to conduct the impeachment of a former president? Because that is exactly the direction the GOP wants to pull our conversation, whether or not it is okay to impeach a former president. That should never be allowed to be discussed. The discussion should only be about whether or not Trump incited the mob. As usual, the GOP is playing the spin game and the media has already fallen hard for it. But I am thankful that this time the hand dealt for the GOP is so bad, even the stupidity of some in the national media will not stop the Republicans from tying themselves up in knots after the vote. For anyone who follows Trump and the current version of the GOP, what happened on January 6th is a great lesson for all of you. Federal officials say that around 800 people stormed the Capitol and closer to 400 are expected to be charged. These are hardcore, die-hard fans of Trump and our GOP. Now, many of these men and women are facing serious charges that could change their lives and their families forever, sometimes to the point of no return. All of you who did this, now please watch what your dear leader and the GOP is going to do for you. Ask if the law is being applied equally to everyone who was involved. Ask the GOP senators what they have done to make sure that the law of the land stays impartial. Why some are facing up to 20 years in prison, while some are making thousands of dollars per week, getting free airtime on Fox, cribbing about lost book contracts, and some even enjoying their vacation in Florida. A question worth pondering during your free time while counting the distance between three walls. Thanks for watching. If you like it, please subscribe.